when I read a lot of research and insight around young people and their fandom, they want content that feels like it's made for me. But again, you look at someone like Ilona Mayer, and you look at her TikTok, and she's doing get ready with me videos, you know, putting makeup on, right next to, you know, a video with her in her kit and training and doing sprints or shuttle runs. And then the next one, she's in a bikini doing, you know, body positive stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff.
That's the stuff that really
that is like, that feels like it's made for me. Welcome to The Attention Shift, a podcast where sports media gets debated, memed, duetted, stitched, and reposted faster than I can say multi-platform media. Okay, Lee, you chose the topic for this episode of The Attention Shift podcast. Shoot.
So, thanks, Joe. I was reading PMG's 2025 State of Sports report.
PMG being?
Rock and roll in your house.
Yeah.
Who are PMG, Lee?
Some guy who wrote a report. They're an agency. So someone probably helped them to fund it.
Oh.
But it was a very interesting report. The thing that came out from it was sort of five core forces reshaping fandom. They call them culture, community, content, connection, and customization. And I think for us, they're not just buzzwords. I think they actually...
They all happen to begin with C.
Yeah.
Amazing, really.
Yeah. Not just buzzwords, and it doesn't just roll off your tongue. And there's not only five of them, so cross your fingers. But I think that for us, it's not just fandom. It's speaking to more than just what is fandom in the modern age, and how does that, and how are people consuming things differently. And I think from the key sort of takeaways I took from it is that streaming is the new stadium. You know, people don't attend at matches, and if your stream is the new stadium, then you know Wembley is YouTube. You know, bad analogy. And I think just wanted to kick that off with how people are consuming things differently, how meeting them where they are, what it means in terms of this new world of culture with content creators and how that all ties together. So just wanted to throw that out there to you guys in terms of those 5 C's. You get your thoughts.
I mean, I'm being slightly facetious, but, you know, redefining fandom. I mean, there's agencies that charge quite a lot of it. But we're going to demystify it for free on the Attention Shift podcast.
Although we do take donations.
Yeah, we should leave a link.
At least for coffee.
Sure. Anyway, culture, community, content, connection, and customization. I mean, culture. What is culture around sports? I think we've spoken about it before in terms of how it's changing. It's honouring fandom. You know, fandom, if we're talking about fandom, it's not just about extracting attention so you can monetize it. It's not about extracting cash in terms of subscriptions or tickets. It's the culture, the old kind of culture of fandom. Certainly when I was watching Rotherham United, when I was a teenager.
That's definitely a niche reference.
Millmore.
Great stadium. Oh, great stadium. I mean, unique.
But the culture there, it was about being a teenage girl stood in the middle of a load of working class guys who taught me more than a few swear words. Also never felt safer, to be honest. But again, this being part of something, that kind of culture where it was a place to gather on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And that's what it was about. But what's the equivalent of that now? That doesn't happen so much now, particularly not for teenagers. They don't very often go, you know, week in, week out to a stadium. So what does that culture mean? How's football culture changed for you?
Well, first off, culture's organic, right? I don't think an agency or a team or a federation can set the culture within their own organisation, but I don't think they can set the culture for the fans. I think it's very, very hard to do it. They can... I'm going to give a Burnley reference now. When we had Sean Dyche as our manager, what he managed to do when he came into the club was, in a lot of ways, remind us as fans what we were about. Like, we knew what we were about, you know, hardworking, salt of the earth. Burnley's that kind of town, right? And I do remember Millmore, having been a few times to watch Burnley there back in the day. We've not always been a Premier League team, Joe.
weren't for last week either.
Yeah, exactly. I already had that. Done on me last week. Culture is something that I think has to, for me, come from the fans and start from the fans. And look, right, the stadiums are not like they used to be from a football perspective. You don't get that same experience that we both had, right, growing up in our respective teams. But that football match day, yes, it's changed now, but it will still be manifesting itself in different kind of ways. So, everyone has their routine on a match day, whether it's a working men's club or I think Nando's.
It shapes you, right, doesn't it? And this is the thing, I think, if we're talking culture, not just football, culture, it shapes who you are. And I do wonder if that kind of fandom culture, we've been stuck in a rut for the last few years. It feels like it got quite cookie cutter for a while.
Yeah, I think that's what came out of this report. I think they reported like 46% of Gen Z fans now are digital first and community first.
Yeah.
And that's why things like Baller League are succeeding, because their way of engaging with a club or a player is through digital platforms, right? It's through YouTube, it's through TikTok, it's through Instagram. It's that, whether it's then just following a player who's doing some stuff off piece,
Personality, what they wear, the music they like.
Yeah. And even the other thing that came up as well, 46% of millennials follow sport content creators as much as they follow sports professionals.
Yeah.
So I think that's when we talk about culture, it's about how are people engaging. It's like, where's your home? Where's your fandom? Where's my people? My people, hopefully down the pub on a Saturday watching the beers. But even that's gone. But if you
rarely get the chance to do that.
But if you're Gen Z or even me as an older millennial, like where are they engaging? It is that it's online, and I think that's the thing that comes out of it, which is if you're not on these platforms like YouTube and you're not engaging people where they are, then all your fans are going to age out.
So how does a league or a rights owner then deal with that? If we're saying that culture, whatever it is, F1 culture or anime culture is no longer, you can't use it as a broad brushstroke. It doesn't fit everyone because we are in this era of hyper personalization. How do you create a culture if you're a sport or you're a league or a federation when you know that everybody's personal experience of culture is different?
I think I think the thing is, I think you said the thing, no one owns your culture, right? But I think historically, because of the way that you could engage with a club was either writing into them, joining the fan club, going up to match day, or watching it on TV, right? That was your only way that you could be part of that. And then you get your fandoms, and you get your away fans, your home fans, you're into the pub or watching at home with your family. That was your kind of culture or experience of watching a game. Now it is beyond that. I think people don't follow teams; they follow players. Generally, especially younger audiences, like if Ronaldo moves or Messi moves or Neymar.
I was on a panel with Marco from Juve last year, and he talked about the reason they decided to create the Juve Creator Lab was they had, I think it was roughly speaking, 450 million followers on social, right? Ronaldo left, well, that was 120 million lost. And then a few other players left, and all of a sudden it was like half that number of followers, and they were like, okay, this is not sustainable for us because we're literally losing half of our potential audience every time a player moves on. So they wanted to try and create something a bit more organic that was creator-led to have some kind of stability over that number of, let's say, fans, right? They're not necessarily fans, they're more
ambassadors is what you call it.
Followers, subscribers.
Do you think some sports rights holders or leagues felt like they used to own the culture, though?
I think if they could dictate it, I think they had like a guiding principle that they thought they owned.
Feel like they can.
I think they thought they owned it. I think they literally thought that,
I don't think they ever used to even use that word culture necessarily. No. I worked in football. I worked at Burnley like 20 years ago. Short head now. And I remember culture wouldn't have been a word that we would have, we would have just talked about the fans. And I think there was, I certainly didn't try ever to have an assumption that we told the fans what to do. What I tried to do when I worked there, and I've talked about this recently as well, was I tried to have fan forums as often as I could. I came from a position of strength because I'd been a fan that then worked there. Yeah. And I worked there. When I worked there, I was then frustrated about how we were making decisions on things that impacted fans. And luckily enough, I managed to get into a position where I was running marketing and media, that I put together a group of fans who I knew and I trusted, that I could regularly lean into and go, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? Look, I knew that certain things were just going to piss people off, right?
Yeah.
That was these obvious things, but I was able to work with these people to get a sense of, okay, what do we need to do here? Not everyone in the club wanted to go down that route of doing it, and that's the reality, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong for saying that. They had a view that they were in positions paid to do this job and they should be able to make decisions accordingly. I had a view that this just de-risks if we go down that route. And actually, if we work with fans to do things, we might just have a bit more credibility when we do the thing that we're going to do.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think, ultimately, to answer your question, it's like, you as a individual want a hyper personalized experience. Like, I want to watch it the way that I want to watch it, whether I want to watch it with, a chat stream on the side, or if I want to watch it with Mark Goldridge's commentary over the top.
Yeah, TV on my sound.
Yeah, exactly. I know I might have my own data, and I might want to go back and watch this way. You want to watch it, or you're maybe a bit older, you just want to lean back and watch it in traditional broadcast, because there's still nothing wrong with the way that it's filmed. What you want to do is be part of that community. You want to find your like-minded people who like to, so you all still feel part of that club, regardless of you watch it, how you watch it. You still want to be part of that belonging.
Do you think the two are compatible? That's another scene.
Yeah.
Do you think that you can have at the same time a personal kind of culture, your relationship as a fan, and have community, which implies that you're all experiencing the same thing?
I think the one guiding factor is ultimately your love, your
religion.
Like your church. I was going to say that as well, like your church. I think I think exactly. There's should have put that church would have been good. They were probably afraid to put church in that. Ultimately, like, we're all working towards the peak, which is our hopefully our all general love for the same thing. But then everyone has their own personalised experience of how they support their
or how you view, and because if you're deep into the insights and you want to, you love diving into the data, and you have last time this happened, you're into the the nitty gritty of XGs of 5 seasons ago.
Yeah, that's a podcast itself.
Yeah, but that's the way you want to consume it. That's the way you consume it. But you want to talk to someone about it, right? You also want to talk to someone who also is into the nitty gritty, and the fact that you can then going on these different platforms and engaging and finding your people, that's going to enable you to do that. And then, but there's also, you'll want to be part of that belonging, as watching that you all want to celebrate together. Best example, when England play, you can hear the cheers, round all the pubs or round all the houses, right? And there's nothing more satisfying. Doesn't happen very often these days, right? But England winning a game and scoring a goal, and that sense of that national pride, and we're all in it together. That's the belonging you want to get. I feel you have the only way you can get that is leaning into these content creators, leaning into these niche communities, and be able to provide them with the experience the way that they want to experience it. So whether that's on YouTube, whether that's on maybe on Roblox, who knows, whichever way you want to, or traditional broadcast, but you want to consume it in a certain way that you want to view the game. I want stats, I don't want stats. I want to see this, I don't want to see that. But all being part of that shared, like watching it down the pub, that's the bit that ties it all together. And I think that's the bit. And I think that's what ultimately is what's highlighted from this report, is with people consuming, as we all know, in different fragmented ways, and younger fans consuming in much more in a digital first experience, and then much more open to having more direct, co-creating almost as a match is going on, because they'll be commenting, they're doing their own things. That's the thing that creates that belonging without trying to over monetize it, because I feel like you lose the reason we've lost some of that culture is because we all feel so burned by you're trying to flog me this, you're trying to do that.
And I was thinking about a football analogy then ultimately, obviously we're not just thinking about football, right? Because there's different there's whatever sport it is, whether it's archery, whether it's
or
canoeing.
I was chatting with a guy who works for Crunchyroll, which is the anime SVOD streamer, and he was talking about how anime is having a huge moment at the moment. Something like 50% of teenagers in the US are watching anime weekly. It's 40 odd in the UK, but it's having this a real moment, and that comes from there's a real respect for anime fans. He used the word honor, which I thought was really interesting. So as Crunchyroll or as the creators of anime IP, there's a real honor with which they treat the fans. And that kind of respect is reciprocated. Yeah. And I do wonder if we've maybe in sports media in the last few years, that has broken down to the point where it's felt like a very extractive relationship. It's, you know.
But is that, like, if you compare football to rugby, right? Like, you'll get a very different culture in terms of that respect towards officials, towards players, towards the games themselves. And obviously, you know, I watch a bit of rugby, but I'm a football fan, and it's amazing the difference when you go to both experiences. And look, like, football's visceral and in the moment and intense, but rugby fans will probably say the exact same thing, just in a different kind of way.
So it's the same thing, isn't it? They say football is a gentleman's game played by thugs, and rugby is a thug's game played by gentlemen. But I think the challenge then is where is the next generation of rugby fans coming through, right? You know, whilst it's got a great match day culture, you know, its broadcasting is not so great. You know, France, actually in France, they're doing a pretty good job with rugby at the moment. But if you look at, you know, rugby in the UK, it's all over the place. They're looking at doing a new franchise model to try and save it because they can't get these younger fans. They're not meeting them where they are. They're not, you know, they've got this great, like you said, you've got this great history, you've got your great legacy. How are you going to engage them? How are you going to meet them where they are? And how are you going to get them to buy into this?
Sticking on the anime theme, because it's interested me since I've worked in sport, how little sports media goes fishing in these other fandoms for that kind of new
association.
So again, if we're thinking that, you know, rugby is struggling to bring in new fans amongst young people, why not go and collaborate with some, you know, an anime IP? We saw in the US Olympic sprinting trials, Noah Lyles pulling out Yu-Gi-Oh cards from behind his running them. Dominic Solanke is a mad anime fan to the point where he does anime-inspired celebrations, you know, Naruto. So why is sport, or I mean, I'm saying this as a generalization as someone who's relatively new, but it seems loath to go fishing in those other kind of areas of fandoms. And why do you think that is? Is it about keeping it pure?
No, because I think if there's a commercial opportunity, if people can see a commercial opportunity, they'll go and do it. I just wonder as well, is it just the vastness of feeling like there's so much going on in what they're doing day to day that to go try fishing somewhere else as well, and they just open up a whole can of worms. And I think sometimes it's also a leadership thing, right? Did the leadership have the knowledge to challenge the people within their organisations to go and do something like that? I don't think it's necessarily a sport thing. I think it might be a football thing, because I'm seeing it with some sporting federations that they're very open to collaborating with other sports to be able to ultimately, you know, take audiences both ways, where they don't feel like there's this competition there, and they do feel like this crossover, and actually trying to do those collabs where that player will play against that player from different sports. There's some similarities between the sports, so there is some crossover. We've seen it, right? It's happened.
Again, it's something that
you get boxing and MMA doing it sometimes.
You get the All Blacks doing it.
Creators do it loud. I mean, that's
and you get it in Aussie rules football, or you used to do it in Aussie rules football and some of the Irish sports.
The All Blacks did it with Hello Kitty. They did a collab with Hello Kitty because rugby. It's one thing with rugby is that if people think of rugby around the world, they think of the All Blacks, right? That's it. And actually, allegedly, the All Blacks has a bigger following than rugby has a following, and then rugby's massive in Japan. So they do a lot of these collabs, and they sell up in minutes. I think the trouble is every time something, there's kind of two main issues, right? One is you feel you're being exploited, right? If you're just an honest fan and you're like, you know, and you want to try and do it. So they're trying to do it for the right reasons, but you just kind of feel like you're trying to monetize me again. Like, you know, like every time there's an NBA shirt coming out, or there's a new, even in football, like there's a new home kit that comes out, or a new away kit, you know, there's another £100 that you got to spend, and it's not done in the right way. You know, if I was, say I had the home shirt and I don't know, let's say it's England, Harry Kane scores in the 70th minute, and they did a promotion, say, well, we know you've got the home kit. Why don't you buy the away kit for 50% off? That would be like a well-timed monetization opportunity that would do it. But it's not like that. It's everyone feels cost of living, feels fleeced at the moment. I also think the other thing you're trying to battle is not just the clubs and the leagues and the federations, it's actually some of the older fans. I think there's a resistance to There's still this kind of like, well, football's always going to be football, or rugby's always like, rugby's always going to be rugby. Like,
there is an element of like, you know, being purist about it, isn't there? But
I see that. I see that with my team, Burnley. We have this discussion on a regular basis between some of the fans I know are similar age to me, where Burnley have become renowned over the last few years about their player reveal memes, right? And there's friends of mine who will message me when they see the new meme, go, oh, done another one, do that. Like, and I'm like, it's not meant for us. No. Like, they're not trying to reach us. Like, some I find good, some I find not so, like, but at the end of the day, they're not trying to target me. They're trying to reach a new fan base. Like, and the reality is they become renowned for it, and they have reached. Now, how that then converts into becoming a fan, who knows, right? And hopefully they've got data on that, and they're working that out. Because I'd love to see my team to be bigger than we are, or to be able to generate more revenue, to be able to challenge the big boys. Because like you say, the reality is we're about to go into a Premier League season. Fingers crossed.
Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it was done properly, right? If you owned the platform, you were doing it properly, you'd make sure your mates didn't see that. Right? You know, that they didn't see that, or they just got the traditional way of it being announced. You know, if it really annoys, so I mean, that's sort of hyper personalized experience means you see the things that you want, but you're still part of the announcement. That you're not getting outcasted from the announcement.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting point, because you've got things like tunnel fits, which is like YouTube or TikTok type content, but actually that can sit quite happily on there. And the purists who only watch on subscription services or linear broadcast will never see that anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That brings us to content, which is another one of the C in those 5 forces you talked about. In terms of this is a whole new competency that sports media has to learn, isn't it? Different types of content for different types of fan, different cultures, back to that C again, and different types of platform.
It's one-on-one a marketing strategy, right? It's kind of like, right next to the right audience.
Right place, right time.
Yeah, but not everyone always thinks like that, and again, I feel like I'm being the apologist here. It's overwhelming, and there's lots going. I mean, I love sort of kit culture content, and I love buying football kits of random teams I'll never go and watch, but just because the kit looks cool, and I've got my eye on a few at the moment. And then there's a whole, sort of contemplate that comes on the back of that too. Like there's lots of different ways that you can connect to fandom that's not necessarily about the game, right?
It's like Drive to Survive, right? Drive to Survive is always the headline thing, and it's done a great job, right? Even one of my close friends is a woman who now wants to go watch an F1 race. Like she never would have done. She's committed to the gap because you're telling the stories, you're buying in to the relationship with the people, the sports.
You're peeling back the curtain. You're actually find out who the people are, because when you see them in the pinnacle of their sport, the live event, you just see what's the
polished version.
And then similarly, if you've not seen it, the NASCAR. They're just on season 2 of the NASCAR series 2. That's on Netflix as well. And in a lot of ways, I prefer that to Drive to Survive. And look, NASCAR really centered on a very specific part of the US. But then you go and see these drivers and hear these drivers talking. It's like they're like you or I, just they're really good at driving a stock car, right? But they live in these amazing houses on lakes, but they're pretty normal people. And actually, when you see that, you go, actually, some of them are a little bit boring. But actually, that's quite comforting. They're a little bit boring.
They're just mental drivers, but just very boring people.
The case though that now Drive to Survive is.
It's too polished. It's too polished.
It almost feels like, and also is there the case where people go, okay, storytelling. Okay, we've done storytelling. We've done Drive to Survive, or we've done the NASCAR docs. Where actually it's much more sophisticated than that. Again,
it's co-telling the story, isn't it? It's like, that's, I think that's what I read in the article, which is like, ultimately what you want is you're co-creators, right? That's why the rise of content creators it's like you're telling one side of the story, which is your view of the story, and your maybe a polished view. Even if it is Drive to Survive, it's still a polished view of your stories that you want to tell the season, how you want to represent it. Then you've got the fans who are watching it, who are then becoming the content creators, who are selling their authentic view, or that they want to see. And everyone has a view, and that's why I think it's like the reason these things are so successful ultimately is because they're stripped back, they're real, they're not. It
brings you on to the fourth one. It gives you a connection. Like you get a connection to the sport. Like similarly, I think it was on Netflix as well. the PGA have done, and actually that was filmed when everything was going on.
Yeah, with the live golf. Yeah.
and you see Rory getting really salty behind the scenes, and he's definitely he's definitely not happy with everything that's going on. And it was fascinating seeing all that happening. Which I think, look, I think if they knew that was going to happen, there's no way on this earth they would have done any of it. And it was so compelling because that was going on. You actually see the dynamics, and again, I think people connect to that.
Yeah.
Because they think, look, they might be gazillionaires, these people, and they're flying around a private jet. But actually, when it gets into the moments where it's not polished and it's not media produced, they're just normal people working out, how the hell do I navigate this?
Yeah, and you know what, that when I read a lot of research and insight around young people and their fandom, they want content that feels like it's made for me.
Yeah.
And it's either because it reflects my life back at me. Now, not
Have you moved on to customization now? Well, that's a fifth one.
I'll work it in somehow. But again, you look at someone like Ilona Mayer, and you look at her TikTok, and she's doing get ready with me videos, you know, putting makeup on, right next to, you know, a video with her in her kit and training and doing sprints or shuttle runs. And then the next one, she's in a bikini doing, you know, body positive stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff.
That's the stuff that really
that is like, that feels like it's made for me.
Yeah, it's like, you're not defining me, I'm defining who I am. And if I want to flit and do something else, I'm going to do something else. And
that's out the window. Yeah.
But people appreciate that honesty and putting themselves out there. She's in control
more than any initiative that's run by a rugby federation or a team. She's connecting more on that level.
That's the worry, isn't it? Like, you know, with all these sort of drive to survive, the golf ones, it's like how many people are watching Series 2? How many people? And,
it's dropping off, and that's the thing. Isn't it? A lot of this shoulder content, it runs out of steam by you know, Series 6, Series 7.
But is that not the same as any box set that you watch? That I give up on Lost after Series 1. I realised what was going on, and I'm not watching another thing. I can't stick with this.
And again, it comes back to commercials, isn't it? Yeah. Series 1 goes off like a rocket, and everybody goes, great, we've got it onto a winner, let's commission a series.
But that's when the athletes can step in, though, right? That's when, you know, when it does curtain off, to your point, it's like there's that one-on-one, you know, that athlete filling on their phone is just, you know, I'm just going to this event, or they trip over, or they're just having a laugh with their mates. Like that's the thing that continues that connection. That's going to drive the interest back when when people do want to see the series. Because I think that we as people, we want to have that connection. We want to feel that we're part of it. We want to be able to, you know, that you do have with social media, you do have that relation, that almost one-to-one relationship where you can comment, and if you're lucky enough, they might comment back, you know.
This came up when I was lucky enough to be in Lausanne at Think Sport. Flex there. But does sport need more entertainment then, in your view?
Sport should be entertainment. I mean, if you think about the US, right, every sport, I mean, they're entertainment first.
And that was the subject of the conversation.
Most of the leagues are media organisations that just happen to do sports.
That was it, yeah. So this Netflixification sport, do you think?
But like it's like I watch sports when I'm in the US, and it just doesn't feel the same because we've not been brought up that way, right? To consume sports in that way. It's almost like the sport gets in the way of everything else. And actually, I want to really have that intensity. I think the closest thing to our sports here in the UK and Europe is probably college sports, because it actually does mean something different to, let's call it, franchise sports out there. But yes, I think we need to be a little bit more entertaining in this country in terms of how we treat fans in physical experiences, certainly.
It feels like it's going to be forced upon sport over here, just because of the way that
they do. The 100 do a pretty good job. I think the answer is, so you said, like, so you think of like sports, you think like Super Bowl, right? It's the ultimate sports entertainment thing. But I think in the UK, like you said, they've tried it a lot of times and it's never done. But I think the one sort of franchise, if you like, that's doing really well is the 100. I think they get a right mix of like family, entertainment, quick sport, because it's entertaining. So it keeps people interested because it is fast paced and it is constantly changing. But there's that whole sort of family thing. I think if you tried doing that, like, you know, halftime on a FA Cup final, is it going to resonate the same?
Coldplay at halftime.
And the funny thing about the 100s one is, I mean, look, I love cricket, and I was as cynical as probably the next cricket fan when they said they're going to do 100. And I remember, and I watch cricket whenever I can, to be brutally honest, like most sports. And my wife came in the room and she was like, "Oh, what's that?" I went, "Cricket." She went, "No, that's different." I was like, "What do you mean it's different?" She went, "It looks different." I was like, "Oh, it's just a big neon, mate. I mean, it's not that different."
Colours.
But she was, no, it looks different. And she was like, "Can we go?" And I remember we went, my wife went, my daughter and I, we went and we did a full day. It's not Lancashire, it's Manchester Originals. Lancashire Cricket Ground. And we went for the women's game and we went for the men's game. We stayed there all day and we took packed lunch with us and we spent I was amazed that I managed to get both of them to stay there for 5 or 6 hours. But like I said, there was entertainment. DJ. Thankfully, the weather was pretty much okay. DJ on, stuff going on. The women's game is different to the men's game, and I was able to explain to them how it was different. And they had an amazing experience. And it's my fault we've not been back since because I've just not organised myself. But they want to go again. And I thought I'll never get to do anything like that. And So well done, the 100, because you did something I didn't think you could do.
And because it's been designed.
And that's the trouble, isn't it?
And that was the same thing with Ball League. You know, I tuned in. I only missed 2 of the 12 Monday nights of Ball League, but it was designed to keep my interest and therefore sustain my attention. You know, I'd tune in at kind of 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'd have it on my phone. I might be cooking tea, but then I'd sit down and watch it afterwards. But the fact that it was, you know, quick, short form, half an hour matches, 15-minute halves, that I absolutely love the game changer at the end of each half. And actually, as the weeks went by and people got used to it.
You got the rivalries as well.
You got the rivalries, you got the beefs, you know, they got the bit of drama. But then what was interesting, again, looking at the comments on YouTube, you start getting people predicting what the game changer is going to be. Or I really want this, I've not seen this one. And it was that anticipation. But then that sustained attention over what was quite a long piece of content every Monday night. You know, starting about 6 and it's going on till 10:30. You saw a bit of a drop off after 9. I think that's probably
bedtime.
But designed for entertainment. But when sport is designed for entertainment, that's like red rabbit to a ball to some people.
Okay, so to wrap up then, because funnily enough, I've been talking for half an hour now. Do we think that PMG's 5 forces encapsulate fandom, or do you think there's more to add to that? Or you know what, like,
I think it does. I think if you it's very markety and it's very.
I'm sure if we thought hard enough,
I'm sure we can come up with 5.
Next episode.
Attention shift 7. We should do that. That's the point of view.
One up them, but
make a note. Grace, make a note.
But no, I think it does, and I think I did write an article about this, and I think the whole point about is the reshaping focus of fandom and what fandom means in the modern age, and how do you have to adapt to that. Is a good way to encapsulate those kind of 5 pillars, if you like.
Anything that gets people talking about how fandom is changing and how we better serve fans. I mean, that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? Really, we should be in the service of the fans with whatever we do, whether we're in charge of ticketing for the live games or whether we're in media like we are. It should be in service of the fans. So anything that sparks a conversation about how that's changing and what fandom is in 2025 is not a bad thing.
Cool. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Ed.
That's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen in next time. And do let us know of what you think of the ramblings. You can email us at hello@attentionshift.media. That's hello@attentionshift.media. Until next time, thank you.
Thanks.
Adios. So that's it for this episode of The Attention Shift. Remember to like and subscribe and listen in next time. And do let us know what you think on hello@attentionshift.media. That's hello@attentionshift.media.